Hi everyone, this is Ida of Created to Create. Welcome back to my channel. If you are not 18 years or older, this video content is definitely not intended for you. As promised you guys, I have been putting off the typewriter video or tutorial for a very long time because of software issues. And so what I decided to do is just go ahead and use my phone and record. And if by any chance my phone happens to cut the video at some point, because my phone does do that, then it starts recording again, be sure to look out for a part two if the project wasn't completed. Anyway, and I don't know when it does it, so I can't tell you if it will or if it won't. So let's get started. That way we don't have to worry about that too much. The first thing you're going to need is a sheet of foam board from the Dollar Tree. And these are the bigger poster size foam boards. And one is plenty. You can probably get 2 or 3 typewriters out of one. Or if you want to do it with chipboard, you can do that, but it's just harder to cut. The first thing you're going to do, and I don't recommend for you to print out the whole pattern. So as I'm going to be telling you what pieces to print out. A lot of it are just rectangle shapes that all you need is a paper trimmer, and you don't even need to print that out. You just need to write it down somewhere. So one of the things that you are going to need is this sheet, and I'm going to link, if I can find it, I'm going to link the pattern for it. If I can find it again, I will do that. There shouldn't be any problem, so I'm going to link it in the description box. And the only difference between this one and mine is that I edited mine in my software on my brother's Scan and Cut. I made it taller. I didn't make it wider, but I did make it taller. But I will tell you how to cut your pieces. And this is not the way that she put it together. She does have a video. It's Tara's Craft Studio, but she doesn't talk on the video. So I had a hard time trying to figure out how to put it together, but hopefully I can give you, instructions on how I put mine together and what works for me. If I can find her video again, I'll link it in the description box so you guys can see her video as well. But this was created by Miss Tara. I don't know who she is, but I did see her video. So you're going to need that piece, and I think you only need 3 pieces of the whole pattern, if I'm not mistaken. That's all I really needed. Even though I printed out the whole thing, I want to spare you some ink. So anyway, out of the foam board, go ahead and cut 4 pieces. You need 2 left and 2 right. So what I did was I traced it on the foam board like this, and then I flipped it over and traced it 2 more times. So that gave me 2 lefts and 2 rights. So you're going to need 2 pieces because we're going to glue 2 of the foam boards together to make one side. And then in the designer paper that you're using, I'm using the Blue Land by Stamperia. And you need also 2 left and 2 right. And mine are partially covered. I covered one side, but I didn't cover the other side. And here's the other one, and you can tell they're pretty thick. Just make sure your blade is pretty sharp, and you shouldn't have any trouble cutting it. So I'm going to set these aside. You're going to need some strips of whatever color you're doing. Like, for example, mine is a craft colored and the Blue Land, because there are a lot of tan colors in the paper line. So this matches, or for me it matches. So this is the color that I'm using. But let's say you wanted all your edges to be white, then you would cut them out of white paper, or black, you would cut them out of black paper. And all these are from my scraps, because we all have a bunch of scraps. I cut out strips that were 1 inch in width, and then I cut them however length, because this is nothing but scraps. But I cut mine down, some to 6 inches and some to I think 5 inches was the other one. And I scored them down the middle. As you can see, there's a little bump right there. That way I can fold them. That way I can fold them like this to glue my pieces together. And I did add score tape, but I'm going to use a combination of score tape and glue. Use whatever you prefer. I'm going to use a combination of both. So for my piece, I needed, the way her box is, It's not very big. It's, I think, only about, I'll tell you real quick, maybe 5 inches. Yeah, hers was only like 5 inches wide, and I wanted my box to be a little bit more wider because I wanted to be able to put in some cards, card bases, because I made it like into a card kit. So I adjusted mine not only in the length but in the width. But the only thing I had to change on the side panel was to bring it up higher. That's all I did on there. I didn't make it wider, just taller. So I'm going to tell you how to get the measurements of what you need. You're going to need a front and a back because we're going to create a box that we're going to glue the sides to. So you're going to need 2 pieces of chipboard, or if you want to layer heavyweight paper. But if you're using the template, your piece only has to be 4 3/8 tall. And depending on how wide you want your box, that's how wide you're going to want to do it. If you're going to want to do it 6 inches, I'm doing mine 6 1/4, but mine is taller. So mine is 5 3/8, but the actual pattern is 4 3/8. And if you want it 6 inches wide, then you're going to do it 4 3/8 by 6 inches wide. I hope that this explains it to you. And what I mean by this is that the height on mine is 5 3/8. The height is 5 3/8, but across like this, I made mine 6 1/4. So however long you want to do this, that's what you're going to do. That's where you're going to get your measurements from the height of your side pieces and how wide you want your typewriter to be. Mine is 6 1/4 by 5 3/8. If you're doing this piece and you still want to make it as wide as mine, then you're going to do it 4 3/8 by 6 1/4. So you're going to need 2 pieces of those. And then you're going to need 2 pieces for the side box that measure, again, mine measure 5 3/8 by 2.5 inches wide. And I am going to link, put the dimensions of mine in the description box. Actually, no. I will put the dimensions of what I would use on this one. And I can't show you the actual typewriter because I sent it to Tamika of Scrap the World when I was in that collab, and I sent her what I created, so I don't actually have it here to show it to you. And then you're going to need a bottom piece for your box, which measures 2.5 inches wide, and however long you decide to make your box. In my case, it's 6 1/4 inches. So this is going to be the bottom of my box. These little short pieces are going to be the sides of my box. I hope this gives you a visual and you can understand what I'm talking about, but that's what we're going to do, or that's what I'm going to do. And you can't make it any wider than 2.5 inches simply because your typewriter keys have to sit a certain space back. And if you do it all the way to the edge or the front of the legs, it's not going to give you any room for the backing in your typewriter keys. So that it's 2.5 inches wide is probably as wide as you can get it. So I'm going to start putting my box together, and I'm going to move these to the side, and let's start putting the box together. So here are my hinges that I'm going to use, and like I said, I did use score tape, and then I'm going to use this tacky glue is what I'm going to use, but you can use whatever you want, wet glue, it doesn't matter. And hopefully I will stay in frame. Let me look at my camera so I know that I'm in frame. So about right here is in frame, as long as I stay in the center of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the front and the back and just kind of lay them out. Okay, here's the front, and here is the bottom of my box. How am I going to attach these together? I'm going to use these hinges to attach them together, and I have some that measure, they're a little bit longer than maybe I have some shorter ones. Hold on, might have some shorter ones here, so you can cut them down to size. I'm just not going to because I'm using scraps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down the long ones to size. So they do need to be 6 inches. Let me grab my scissors really quick. And I usually use the lines right here on my, that is on my my grid right here, my glass that I used to create. So, you know, it doesn't have to be approximate because you are going to cover that. So I'm going to adhere. I'm going to take off the double-sided tape because I am using both double-sided tape and glue. And let me add some glue to right here. Oh, I lost my lid. I hate when that happens because I'm going to need to close it and it's going to clog up. So I'm going to add glue to my strip. And I'm going to glue the bottom of my my box almost all the way to the score line. Oh, I hope I used the right one. Did I cut the wrong one? I bet you I did. I sure did. I cut it too small. Well, I'm going to use it anyway. So I'm going to cut it to line it up almost right up to the score line. And I know it's hard for you to see, but when you're working from home, you'll be able to see the score line on your piece. So there is one piece, and I'm going to add glue to here. And it's like we're creating almost like a mini album. So this is the bottom of the box, and I'm going to line it. And I'm just going to leave myself a little bit of space where I can fold over my piece and it will fold over correctly. And because I added the tacky glue, it gives me a chance to move it around if I need to. So there is my second piece. Now I'm going to add this other strip at this end, and I'm not going to use this one because I think I have a longer one. No, I sure enough don't. I bet you I cut the wrong ones, guys. Oh, I remember it was 6 1/4, that's why. So let's leave it a little longer. So cut your strip 6 1/4 and make sure to watch the whole video before you start. That way you guys don't end up making the same mistakes that I do if you watch the whole thing. In this video, we're only going to put together the box. So I took off the double-sided tape, and it does have a score line in the middle. And I'm going to add some glue again right here on the edge. And I'm going to line this up almost all the way to the score line. Not quite. I'm not going over the score line. I'm not going over the score line, but I'm close to it, pretty close. Again, you want to give yourself, see that little space right there? You do want to give yourself some space. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add glue. And I'm going to add this piece, which is the other one that is exactly like this. So one's the front and one is the back. And I'm going to make sure they're straight, giving myself a gap. So when I fold it, it folds easily. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. So now we're going to add the sides to it. How are we going to add the sides to it? I can close it up and just add the sides to it, or I can add another little piece of this strip down here and start adding the side pieces. And I think that's what I'm going to do. And these measure 2.5 inches in width. So I'm just going to get me a little 2.5 inch strip, and I'm going to need 2 of those for this piece. And again, I just use my scraps. That way, gives you a good way to use up your scraps. Okay, so on the side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take off the score tape backing. I'm going to add a little bit of the glue. And I believe that I am in frame. I hope that I am. And then I'm going to add it right underneath here, and I'm going to butt up almost to the score line again right here. I'm going to do the same thing. That looks pretty good right there. I'm going to add more glue right here on this edge where there isn't any tape. And the reason I'm adding it is because there isn't any tape there. So here are the 2 side panels that we created, and we're going to glue one on each side, giving us a little bit of room that we can fold the box over neatly without putting too much stress on that piece of, I call it hinges. That's what I call these little things. And we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, but first I'm going to do this one. So this one's getting kind of big. So I'm going to move it out of the way, and I'm going to do the one side by itself, and then I'll add it to the bigger piece. So I'm removing the backing from the tape, adding the glue, and then I'm going to come up almost all the way to the score line. So let me make sure I'm in frame. Yeah. So now we're going to remove this backing, add some more glue, and we're going to add it to the other side of our box. We're going to add it right here, making sure that it's straight and it gives us a little bit of gap where we can close it without too much trouble. That looks pretty good right there. So I'm going to move this up closer so you guys can see that there is like 1/8 of an inch gap in between my pieces, because when I go to close the box up, if it was too tight, I wouldn't be able to do this, or I would be able to do it, but it would cause too much stress. So this is what we're doing. We're creating this box to add our sides to it, and this is that hidden piece where the cards go in. So if we have this like this, if you want, you can add a little bit of glue to it. I'm not going to do that because I already have the score tape on my pieces of paper. So I'm going to make sure to fold over. I already have the tape on there. Make sure to cut them the length that you need them. Like, see right here, these are actually too tall. Do I have shorter ones? I think they're all about the same. Yeah, they're all about the same, so I'm going to have to trim them off some. Just kind of by adding it here, like it'll show you really, all you got to do is fold it over and you give yourself the mark where you need to trim it off. So I'm going to trim them off as I go, folding it in half, removing the backing from the score tape. It's been a long time since I've made any tutorials of any kind. And I'm going to add, you know what, to make it easier, I'm going to do the outside first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to the outside of the box. I'm going to come up almost to the score line. I'm going to turn it the other way so you can see. See the score line right there? I didn't go all the way up to the score line. Almost to the score line. So now I can just close this up and wrap my paper around it, and it's going to stay. But I think on this one I am going to add the glue to the portion of the hinge that doesn't have any glue on it, just for added support. I like to make things to last. So, and by having the score tape and the glue, it gives you added support, but the score tape kind of holds it temporarily until you have a chance, until there's a chance for the actual glue to dry. So that's one side already picked up. Now let's do this other one, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get the hinge that we're going to use, and I'm just going to line it up at the bottom and just fold it over at the top and trim it off. And that is a great way where you don't have to measure to do this. So let's remove the score tape. Again, I'm going to, see, I can see the score line right here. So I'm going to adhere this almost to the score line, but not quite. Then I'm going to add glue to this. Oops, don't get stuck yet. I'm not ready. Then I'm going to add glue to the portion of the hinge that doesn't have glue. And we're going to repeat the same thing. We're just going to close it over and fold over the flap. Abby's cooking, guys, and I can smell the chicken. So there is half of the box. Now you see right here whether this lifts up, it's because I didn't really add any glue to this portion. So I gotta add glue here to make sure it's not gonna come up. It's okay if it gets a little messy because we are gonna cover that up. I'm just kind of closing the box up right now. We're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Let me clean up a little bit. I have been cleaning up for you guys just for this video. So we're going to need 2 more hinges right here. I'm going to just hold it right there and I'm going to bend it. So that'll give me an idea of where how short it needs to be. And I'm going to take my second one and just line them up together. That way I can cut off the other one. So they're both ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to fold these over because they are pre-scored. And I'm going to take off the tape on one side, actually on both. Take off the score tape backing. I'm going to add glue to one side. So this, if I get it like too close to the edge, because I have glue on here as well, it tends to let your paper move around a little bit. That way you're not, that way if you need to move it, you can do that. So there it is. Now I'm going to add glue. As you can see, it's almost to the score line, but not quite. And this is a real easy way to make boxes. So if you find yourself that you have trouble making boxes, this is a real easy way to make them. And make sure you burnish the inside so it's nice and glued down. And I'm not going to decorate it on camera like this portion because all of the other decorative elements are going to go on after, pretty much after I'm done with assembling and putting the paper and everything on my project. So here's the last one that we're going to do for the outside of the box. Again, I'm removing the backing, adding my glue to one side and then the other. And I might have skipped this step, but you know, and all you got to do is just line it up all the way to the corner and put your box together. And pretty much there's my box. Like, not too much trouble at all. There's the top. Make sure it's nice and glued down. Sometimes you'll be able to see like the, I don't know if you can see on the inside. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can see like openings back here because my hinge was too small right there. Now I can go back there and had my hinge been long enough to go one end to the next, you wouldn't have been able to see that. But because my hinge wasn't long enough, that's why you can see that. But I'm okay with it because this is going to have a base. It's going to have papers. It's going to have sides, and you're not going to see that. But on this side, the hinges were plenty long, and so I don't have that same issue on the other side. But there is our box for the typewriter, or that hidden compartment. Now these go on the outside, I mean on the, yes, on the outside of the box, and they should be about the same height. So make sure that the top of the sides and your box are the same height. If your sides are too short, that can be fixed. If they're too long, it would be pretty hard to cut after you adhere them. So if they're too long, make sure to trim them down before you adhere them. Mine are about right, and I'm okay with that because I can you know, do little, you know, things here and there to make an adjustment. So I'm going to be okay. I'm going to leave mine as this, even though I can tell that on this side is lower than on this side. But I'm going to adjust that on my final one. Anyway, this is how we're going to create the box. There's going to be the side of the typewriter. Then there you get to see how it's starting to look like our typewriter. But see that right here on the side, what you want to do is you want to leave quite a bit there, because your backing and your typewriter keys are all going to be here, and the roll goes up here, so you need plenty of room in the front. So I would say line up your box to the back almost as close to the edge as possible. You see right there, I'm leaving maybe less than 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/16 of an inch, and that's where I'm going to glue the sides. And I'm going to do the same thing to both. But first, I have to add paper to the inside of my typewriter. And so I'm going to do that right now. And this is the only thing we're going to do in this video, guys. We're only going to do the box and the sides. And then on the next video, the keys are kind of time consuming, so we're going to do that on the next video. But right now, I'm just going to glue this down. Is this what I wanted to show, or? Yeah, I think so. So just add glue to your paper, or you can use, I normally use Mod Podge, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to glue it down. And, but normally I would use Mod Podge to adhere it. But this is good too. So there it is. There is the, I feel like it moved a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Look at glue all over my hands. Normally I tend to have a little rag that's wet. And this one's going to go here. I would have liked this piece. Maybe I did it wrong. And it's too late to take it off, I bet you. I might make a bigger mess. Yeah, no. If I try to take it off, I'm going to make a bigger mess. So I'm going to leave it. I had this prepped a long time ago, guys. And I just didn't work on it. And I kind of forgot what went where, because I let it sit so long. So I'm just going to leave it like that. This paper's pretty no matter what. But I think I want it the other side. So make sure you know what side you want where. On this one, we're going to put this piece right here. And I love this paper because we're adding it to a typewriter. And this kind of looks like a newspaper to me, like somebody's typing a newspaper. So I'm going to, I mean, I love the way that looks. It matches perfectly with what we're creating. I'm going to add glue all the way around. Make sure you add plenty of glue. If you add Mod Podge, you do have to give it some time to dry. So we're going to add this to this side. My mail lady is here, and I don't know if you guys have seen, but we've started screen printing, or learning how to screen print to help Abby out because of, you know, the pandemic. We're in the restaurant. She's a waitress. It's slowed down quite a bit. So, you know, I always encourage my kids to do something else, to have their hands in different things. So I'm learning right along with her. So that's what I've been doing. We've been learning how to screen print. So here is the side of my sides to my typewriter. Now, I'm going to put this on the inside, and then this one is going to be here. I wish I had paid attention to that. Like, that really bothers me, but it's too late. It's too late. It's going to have to stay like that. So now we're going to glue the sides to our box, and then we can continue to work with it. But I kind of want to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. We're not going to construct the lid today. That's going to be a separate video because it has a lot of elements that you have to do to it. So let's go ahead and adhere the sides. So make sure that your paper is glued down really well. I can see that I have a little piece here that isn't. So I'm going to add glue to it too. I think it's my glue. I don't even know what kind of glue I have in this little bottle. I kind of ran out of the, what's the name of that glue we all like to use? Art glitter glue. So I'm using just whatever I have. I don't want to throw it away. So there it is. So what I'm going to do to the box to adhere it to the side, I'm going to use this tacky glue to do that. So you're going to add glue to the side of your box. We do not have to paper this side of the box because it is glued to one of the side pieces of the typewriter. So we don't have to do that. And you are going to want to line, after I line it up, I'm going to share it with you. Maybe I can set it down. I'm going to line it up almost all the way to the back of the typewriter, just giving myself about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to stand it up. So I'm not leaving too much on the back, just enough that I can add a paper to cover the back. So there's one side, and let's add glue to the other side of the box. So whatever glue, you want something that's permanent, that's gonna hold. You can use a combination of tape and glue if you prefer. Totally up to you. Okay, that should be plenty. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm actually going to line this up. Look at how pretty that is. I'm gonna set it down so I can line it up better. And hopefully you'll have a good angle of review of what I'm doing. I'm moving it almost all the way to the edge. And because I use glue, I still have some wiggle room. When I think I got it about right, I am going to pick it up to make sure it is flush at the bottom. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe moved a little bit on this side. Now I still have wiggle room, so I can slide it over some if I need to. Yep, that looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to stand it up, apply some pressure. Now you can see when I push this kind of firm that it wants to buckle right there. So we are going to put another layer of chipboard in the front, but not in the back. In the back, we're going to add designer paper. If you want it to be more firm, you could add another layer of chipboard and then your designer paper. So let's make sure it's nice and glued. So you can see the beginning of our typewriter right here. It's starting to look pretty good. Now our typewriter, I think the way she did it, she actually did a whole base to it. I didn't do it that way because I felt like I wanted my box to be really firm. So I'm just going to apply pressure on the inside with my bone folder, make sure everything is gluing and that it stays glued. So no matter what you're using, whether you're using score tape or you're using glue, make sure it's something that's going to hold up and not come apart. Okay, so there's the back. As you can see in the back, actually I think this still even needs to shift a little bit more. You want both sides to look about the same. See that little 1/8 of an inch right there? You can mark it with a pencil, give yourself a line that if you want to follow a line, you can definitely do that. You can give yourself a line if that's better for you, and then make sure when you adhere your sides that you cover up that line. That looks pretty good. I need to go search for my cap for my glue. So for today, guys, this is all we're going to do because I think we're already a few minutes in and I don't want this to stop. So tomorrow or the next day, I will upload the next video. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you come back and help me and create with me and create your own typewriter, and that you don't leave me hanging, that you actually complete the project. Thanks for watching. I hope everyone has a great day, and God bless. Bye.